to me, my X-Men. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the uncanny world of the Cinestro Core. I'm your host, Blacksfeet, and today we are discussing the season finale of X-Men 97, now streaming on Disney Plus. Let's get right into it. First of all, Magneto was right. Second of all, Bastion, your days are numbered. Well, he's already packed up. Spoiler alert. Sorry for if you haven't seen it yet.
Immediately.
Get your life together. Third of all, let's talk about how great this show is.
You just went to spoiling shit.
Hey, by now, if you haven't seen it, that's on you, bro. That's on you. You should know by now. We are on top. With X-Men 97, we are on the money. We watch this the minute it drops, and we go straight into the analysis. We do not hesitate. Everything else, I've been holding off on tweeting about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes because we're saving that for our next episode. But as far as, X-Men, as whatever other stuff we've been talking about, bro, if it drops, I'm on top of it. We in there. And I can't stress enough how good this show is. X-Men 97 may or may not be the greatest thing that Marvel has put out. And I wanna put my money on it is the greatest thing Marvel's put out.
You don't think that's recency bias at all?
No, it's not recency bias. It's real. It's recency facts, recency truths.
Recently revealed to him.
Recently accurate.
I agree. No, I think there's no pushback from me in that sense. I do think, if not the best things that Marvel I think has ever put out, point blank. Period. I think and I don't know what it is. I think it's the fact that it's the X-Men. I think the X-Men just lend themselves to just like in better storytelling, just because of like the themes and stuff that they deal with. But then also the creatives in charge and like the stories they decided to, the comic book lines that they decided to adapt. And it's just, man, X-Men 97, and we've been saying it from day one, and I'm going to say it until it turns out not to be the case, that X-Men 97 just fucks, man. It's awesome. It's so good.
My Wolverine claws. I was looking for pens, but I couldn't find any, so I got Chick-fil-A sauces. There's some real big back shit. Real big activities right now. X-Men Origins, Sauce-Verine. No, you're right, bro. You're right. I think especially after coming off of Secret Invasion, then going to Loki season 2, and then coming to this, we haven't had a major MCU animation project. I feel like that has grabbed us like this.
I don't think we've had an MCU project. Period.
Animation. That's true. That's actually true. You're right. Hence the new Marvel animation banner and all the new, and then or even in comparison to the other shows we've discussed, Invincible. Boo. Did we discuss The Boys Diabolical, the little cartoon animated The Boys? I don't think we did, but just in comparison to the other shows, I think it's because part of the reason why everyone's so hyped about it is because we've been so X-Men deprived for so long. Bryan Singer done bastardized that comic into that shit show. I mean, it was still kind of cool, but it was a shitty script when you looking back at it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They had Rogue as the main character for the first movie, and all of a sudden she was just sidelined to, oh, Bobby. Oh, no, Bobby, I can't touch you, Bobby.
She can't fucking fly. She's not super strong.
She's not even cool. They wasted Anna Paquin, bro. She's just standing there. They didn't let her do no cool shit besides siphon people's life force out. I hate it, bro. Bryan Singer, you're gonna count your days, boy.
Anyways, I think that leads into like what we've been saying about the show, is that it's Brian DeMayo seems to have really, and the writers, like the whole writers.
You mean Bo DeMayo?
The whole writers, what's it called? Writers room seems to really have a really good understanding of characters just from a comic perspective. It seems like they're really approaching it from a fan perspective, and then if you understand these characters and you're a fan and you like what they do and you know what they do, you can then elaborate and expand on what it is that you love about those characters so much. Right?
Did somebody say fan of the characters? a person who knows the X-Men. Oh golly geez, Mister. It seems like I joined just in time. Gee Willikers.
Oh boy. Here goes Caliban, bro. Caliban.
It's your boy, Mr. Genosha was an inside job, aka Fucking Q told us about OZT on the forums before we knew about it. I'm telling you, I called this shit from the get-go. As soon as I saw Bastion, I knew it. I knew what was gonna happen.
Make
They said I was a madman.
That was actually one thing I was going to point that I was going to mention and kind of talk about is that I think I wasn't very familiar with Bastion from the comics, but he's like a not a major player. He's like a B, if not maybe C.
Yeah,
or like X-Men.
He fucks a lot of shit up. Like I was scared when I saw Nightcrawler fighting him because in the original story with Bastion, like that where he has that form with like where he has the angel wings and shit. The original version of that story is Hope Summers is about to get attacked by Bastion in order to counteract Nightcrawler's powers because he's like, all right, I can't get Nightcrawler, we'll kill the girl. And he goes to kill the girl, Nightcrawler teleports in front, and Bastion punches a hole through his chest, and then he teleports out with an arm embedded in his chest, and I was like, oh shit, they're gonna kill Kurt. But they didn't. Which was good. I was very happy. I was like, "Oh God!"
An awful lot about him. I think it was a very good idea to pick a character who we haven't seen adapted like live action or animated form before. Really use him to kind of be the main villain for this season. I thought that was a great idea. I think they tweaked. I'm not 1,000% familiar on like what his power set is, but I think making him a technopath and making
that's essentially it. Yeah,
he does
translated. Yeah,
and just
he's a technopath. He's
the Terminator.
Yeah, and
him immune controls of the robots.
Himself.
He's a RoboCop.
Make himself like fuel for like wanting to carry out like this genocide against me. I thought that was also like brilliantly like planned out, and I think it played out wonderfully in his backstory and his mom being a fucking racist and that leading to the genocide.
Told you he's RoboCop.
Yeah, I just thought Bastion was a great choice for a villain, and I'm glad they decided to go with. I love when adaptations do when they take a character who's not that well known or is not like super popular, and they're like, okay, he's about to fuck shit up, and he's about to be the main villain for our shit.
Speaking of speaking of great choices and stuff that they've done well, let's discuss all the things we liked real quick about not just this finale but the entire season as a whole, because I think each episode we've discussed X-Men 97, we've had a bunch of positives. I don't think we had really any negatives to say about the show. If anything, maybe the little Motendo episode, but even that was not like it's negative. It's just it's filler, but it was good filler. It was
a
good
whole
filler,
episode, really. Yeah, I feel like they could have just done one episode.
What's your take on the stuff we like? What did you like, Gerardo? What are your pluses for X-Men 97?
Just overall, man, great writing. I think, like you mentioned, Invincible and The Boys animation show, just a huge step up in quality in terms of what we're seeing on screen. I just think it's fucking banger, through and through. I can't find anything that I dislike about the show. I like that we're focusing on characters that we didn't focus on last time. We're getting less Wolverine. We're getting more Cyclops and everyone else. It's great.
Good analysis. I agree. I do like the switch of focus on characters. There's a lot of folks who are considered not B team X-Men characters, but they're more or less overshadowed by the bigger names. Wolverine.
Yeah, they're not starters basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast, and one of the hosts was saying he said I've never really cared for Beast. He's like, this show made me think like, oh, he's cool. Like
he's pretty cool.
Like
that's yeah.
I think that's very.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just saying, like, I think that's a good point. I think. Yeah. Even though we may not spend as much time as I would like with all of these characters, I do think that they're all written with purpose, and they're all written with love. So like they all have a little bit of time to like shine. Beast, you can tell like they use his intellect, right? Aurora, you can tell she's an Omega level mutant. You know, you can see how you know, Jean, you obviously see her dynamics as kind of being like the mother of the group, Scott being the Boy Scout and the leader, and although you don't spend 50 minutes with each of these characters every week, you know, like the little bits and pieces that you do get to spend with them, I think are just so true to them, and they're also different, and they're also unique, and they're also so indicative of their like comic counterparts that I just think the writers have such a good understanding of these characters and the source material, and they're pulling and writing from a place of love, and I just think and understanding and extrapolation, and the extrapolation is so great that I love it. I can't say anything bad about it.
I agree. Well said. AZ, what about you? Any other positives that you have for the show?
Dude, hold on. Let me.
I know you're the resident X-Men lore specialist.
Man, let me tell you something. It wasn't until I would say maybe around Death of Wolverine era / maybe even going into Secret Wars. No, it was Avengers versus X-Men around like 2014 to 15 when Cyclops was a villain, right?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite eras of X-Men. That was probably the most indicative of my interest being directed towards X-Men in the lines of Marvel publications. And so I basically decrease the amount that was my comic book blind spot. I got into X-Men heavy around that time, and being able to see, like, you know, all the X-Men media that's come out. We've had games, you know, we've had the Fox movies, as jumbled up as they are, has been pretty much the Wolverine show. And anytime that they try to not focus on Wolverine, you know, it gets to a point to where there's other characters in the film and you're like, why are they even here? Or when is Wolverine going to show up? You know, there's not a reason for me to care about these characters. And the X-Men are an ensemble team. So naturally you'd want that ensemble type of feel. And I feel like what this show, actually not even what I feel, what I know this show has done very well from the ground up, has formulate its narrative to where I care about each and every single one of these X-Men. Like, I already like Cyclops, and the main thing I saw after this was people on social media, on Reddit and different comic book forums, on Twitter and stuff, talking about how they thought Cyclops was a bitch, and then this show made him cool. Like, they saw this man fucking shoot his lasers at the ground just so he could pivot around and punch it in. Dude, they saw him drill through an entire mountain and use it to drift a car. They saw this man superhero land with his eyes. Like you see him not only as just a Boy Scout, but like a leader. You see why this man is in charge. And I like
a Boy Scout with swag.
Yeah, exactly. And I like how Wolverine, even though he's like apparently the mascot for the X-Men, according to like Marvel executives and different people who want to like market the X-Men, right? He's not the sole focus. He does get cool moments. And I did see a lot of people say that he's being underplayed. Not true. He's just getting the same amount of love and attention that the rest of the cast should have gotten this whole time. And people aren't used to it. And I for one, loved it. I loved the introduction of other side characters like Nightcrawler or the Genosian Council being a spin on Jonathan Hickman's Krakoan era, which was a really nice send-off because honestly that era was gone in the comics far too soon. I really liked how they pulled all the mutants together. They didn't just have it to where if a mutant's power is strength, you know, they fight like just a big old punch up, right? I think it was specifically highlighted best in the last episode where Rogue was fighting Bastion. And you get to see like how Rogue fights, Rogue fights with like a lethal, aggressive grace. It's like a mixture between the Hulk and like ballet.
But even that, I think
it's very neat.
I think that's a great point you bring up because, for example,
she even did the whole
little clap.
I think that's a really good because like for most of like the original series run and like a lot of like this one's run, a lot of people are like, "What is Jubilee doing there?" They're like, "Why is she
exactly
so pointless? Like she's not even all that strong." And in this episode,
fireworks.
You see her blow Bastion's fucking face off. Right?
Peel his shit back.
Yeah, and had it been him, that would have killed him, you know? So it's like those little moments that I'm so cool and so neat because the writers notice, they're like, I love these characters and I want everybody else to love them as much as I and we need to existence, but not in a way that seems preachy or pushy. Just in a way that's like everyone's like, oh, they're badass too. I really, for whatever reason, and so I think that's really
I think they definitely had like more creative uses of powers and abilities. Like even in the I think it was the very first episode, they probably showed it off best, where Storm, instead of just making giant lightning bolts to fry a thing or a tornado, right? She glassed an entire desert and then made a tornado and then used that as shrapnel to shred the fucking Sentinels. I would have never thought of that. I would have, if I had that power, I would have never fucking thought of that. I would have just been like, I can shoot lightning, I guess. Zap, zap, nigga. Like, right. I would have never thought of that. That's so creative. The way Cyclops uses his ability of this optic beams to propel himself around, like they actually exhibit the fact that it's not a laser, it's a concussive beam, like getting punched by sound. Right, Jean Grey using her mind powers. I did think. I'll get into it when he's talking about negatives, but there was one part of Jean Grey's powers where I was like, all right, that's a little bit convenient. But pretty much everything else I thought was really well exhibited. I thought everybody's strengths were put forth. Beast with his technology and expertise, Aurora with her omega level capacity, Cyclops' leadership, Wolverine's berserker rage, Morph's adaptability. You know, like. Oh, and like the way that they do callbacks in this, like when I didn't even notice, for one, Rogue has on Gambit's jacket, and I did not notice that until I rewatched the episode.
She took it off pre-fight, pre-final fight.
Hello?
I think he's gone.
Oh, they got it.
They got him. He got sniped.
No,
too hard.
Got him.
No, they got AZ.
Okay,
oh,
did they get me? Did OCT get me?
The magnetic field of Earth was a little jacked up. Magneto was up there. You know, him and Charles were having brain penetration.
Oh yeah, Rogue with the jacket.
Psychic penetration.
They do a lot of good examples of showing and not telling. We don't have a verbal confirmation from Rogue she's moved on or that she's been able to, like, you know, carry on the legacy of Gambit. She just has the jacket on, and then later on she takes it off when it's time to get down to business to focus on her mission and the X-Men and saving mutant kind, because that was originally her dream and the whole reason Gambit died. And the way that she says his name was Gambit, remember it? I was like, oh,
remember it.
Oh, fuck yeah, that's right in the
fire. Stood up
right my veins.
Stood up right out my chair, bro.
I did.
I stood up out my seat for real.
It was just from start to finish. It was beautifully animated. They highlighted why every member of the team is essential. They did good character work with everybody. I genuinely felt like this was a family, and I feel like it's a great introduction for even people who haven't read the comics or are just getting into it. And I know for a fact this show is amazing because not only did it adapt Fatal Attraction, which I loved that. That was horrifying and I loved it. But on top of that, even the stupid, absolute Cheeto-scented, sad, pathetic pieces of shit who are like, oh my God, everything is woke, was like, this isn't woke. It's actually good. It's subversion of the woke trope. And I'm like,
they're still saying
this is just good media.
They're still out there saying it's woke.
They're saying it, but guess what? Guess what? For the first time in a while,
to wake up and find God before I come over there.
Exactly. And what's best is for the first time in a while, they're being drowned out so much by the praises of this show to where everybody unanimously agrees it's great.
Speaking about woke,
that's it. That's all I got to say.
That's good. One that I wanted to mention is that one thing that I enjoy about the show, but about this episode in particular, it's kind of like you know, there's a lot of subtext in this episode, in the writing of this episode, particularly between Charles and Magneto, whole bar scene, and you know, the whole interaction about them, you know,
they explore each other's bodies
essentially
mentally,
and the mental penetration and I think, you know, and although I know it's not inherently or overtly sexual, like I do know Bo DeMayo is a queer man, and so like that subtext is there and it resonates and it speaks volumes, you know, and it's felt, and although nothing is implicitly said, you know, the connotations I think are very powerful, and I think that just makes that scene just work so much better because it's so dynamic, because it's not just two men kind of confiding in each other. You know, they're coming out to each other, and you know, and they're both admitting to each other being that they're mutants, and you know, and that can mean so many different things. And it's, you know, yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly, yeah. And so it's, you know, and then also the scene between Morph and Wolverine, I thought, you know, it was very small and very quick, and you know, we didn't see much of it, but I thought that was very kind of like that was a lot more overt, you know, and that, you know, kind of throughout the season we've been like, do Morph and Wolverine kind of like have a, like, is that a thing? Is that not gonna be a thing or
They're
whatever?
fucking
You know, and then
raw.
Morph transforming, you know, morphing into Jean and saying, I love you, Logan, or don't leave me, or whatever, you know. And so, and that, you know, and the kind of the nuances of that, and you know, the dynamicism, you know, dynamics in between that, and that was so wonderful. And that's what I love about the show. Just it's so beautifully written. It's well written, like hands down, bar none, suck my dick. Like it's just writing is good, and that's that. And if you have a good script, everything else comes easy, right? If you have a script, the acting is good, the directing is good, because most of the work is on the page. It's written out, it's literally written out for you. You just have to follow through. And so it's, you know, just one thing that I wanted to mention, and just one of the things that makes X-Men so great is kind of that, you know, that not overt, you know, a lot of subtext that goes into what these characters are and what they stand for, and it's just beautiful. But yeah,
it's very in your face, and they don't hold back, and that's one thing I really like and appreciate. I want to say some directors, some writers are kind of hesitant to be, you know, this is what we're talking about, and you're gonna see it. They like to tiptoe on the issue. They did not hold back in the show, and I think they need to move forward with that. In the greater, not just in the greater MCU, but in other projects as well, across other companies, other stories. So we talked about a lot of the great choices they made, a lot of the stuff we really liked. Let's talk about some of the stuff we disliked, if there's any. I think this might be our shortest. This might be our shortest little bit of any episode, because I have no negatives to say. I don't.
It wasn't
really
longer.
don't. My one dislike. Why was it not 20 episodes instead of 10? Yeah.
Oh,
why did we only get 10 episodes? It should have been 25. I would watch all that.
I dislike they haven't given us a good reason as to why Bo DeMayo's been fired, and he is the architect of this showrunner and head writer and executive producer. And so, although he has two, or he was like close to finishing basically all the scripts for season 2 and was throwing out ideas for season 3. Although we're good for another season, I'm interested to see if there's going to be a dip in quality, if at all, between season 3, considering, you know, his departure. So that's what I don't like, because I think it's going so well, and season 2 is only going to pick up where this left off for another season. That, you know, his firing, you know, is going to be kind of jarring, and is going to be felt, I think, creatively. So
do you think perhaps we might get like a Loki season 2 situation? Like maybe if there's someone who co-wrote like a really good episode of season 1, they take over season 2, and they kind of keep that same vision. And it's not exactly like a dip in quality, or might be even.
I think that's the best we can hope for.
Yeah, because they seem to have like a really competent team going as is. So I think we might be in pretty good hands after DeMayo's run is over. You know,
either we get that, or we get a James Gunn situation where they're like, sorry, we made a mistake. You're cooking this fucking show too good. Here you go. Get back in the seat.
So
you know?
what? You know, sexually harassed some, you know, coworker, you know,
or some shit,
allegedly.
Position of power. Who cares? The show's great. Come on back.
Ratings, millions. Come on.
No, so, you know, and one more thing that I think ties in, that I dislike, that I think ties into the MCU at large, is that we've gotten such a good depiction of the X and what they can do and what they stand for, that I feel like the MCU's version is gonna have a lot, and I've talked about this before. Is gonna have a lot to live up to.
Oh yeah.
I feel like it has. I feel like this show has set the bar super high for the upcoming live action MCU. Speaking of, let's talk about the future of the X-Men.
Wait. I have a couple things I didn't really like necessarily.
Oh,
So
go ahead. Run through those.
They're just nitpicky. They're just nitpicky. At the end, I did feel like the Jean Grey thing was just wrapped up like for no reason. Like the Phoenix shit, I was like, okay, that's kind of pulled out of your ass.
Yeah.
Where did this come from? There was no predisposition to this.
There's a data.
She's mentally ill.
Yeah, like it could be
got
maybe like they're
brain
trying
problems.
They could maybe trying to hint at like the era where Cinestro swapped her out was sometime around like the Phoenix saga in the X-Men animated series timeline. Maybe that was the hint, but if that was the subtext I was supposed to pick up on, it didn't translate well. It kind of felt like they were just putting what should have been an entire like hour and a half to like multi-hour long episode, and they split it at like the worst possible point. And they were like, yeah, this happened. This is just bait. Tune in next week to see what happens. Like it felt a little bit ham-fisted. I will also say there were some points just every now and again where I was like I think it was mainly just the Motendo episode that kind of dragged a little bit for me, because there were certain parts which I feel like if the series was maybe a little bit shorter, you know, maybe it had hour-long episodes and it was like 6 episodes and it saw the same narrative and everything, maybe they could have been structured a little bit better. Because some aspects of it felt a little bit disjointed at times, but I still overall enjoyed it. And I would say this is still a 9.5 for what it's done for the X-Men. But the last thing, and this isn't even the fault of the show, this is just the fault of nostalgia in its own sense. There's been a movement I've seen online pertaining to this where people are thinking that we need all the other Marvel stuff adapted from animation back in the 90s and need it brought back immediately, and that people need this folded in the MCU. And I think those are both the wrong lesson. Yeah, like Spider-Man, like I guess because it did end on a cliffhanger, but I don't think we need that. I don't think the lesson to learn from this is that we need to just bring back more old stuff. The lesson is, if we do, have it made with competent people like this who love the source material, who are actually giving 100% and trying to make something.
Keep John Watts the fuck away from it.
I'm gonna put a pin in what you just said, because that's a follow-up topic here on this episode. Let's talk about the future of the X-Men, because we have the live action component coming up starting this summer with Deadpool and Wolverine. So we're probably gonna get a bunch of X-Men characters show up, a bunch of other mutants show up besides just Wolvie. What's y'all's viewpoint on the future of the X-Men, not just in animation but also in live action? What are y'all's expectations for the real life the real life MCU versus the animated?
The live action X-Men aren't gonna live up to X-Men 97.
They're not. They're really not.
Bars too high.
So
bars set too high.
And also, I'm confused as to what we're doing, because they already introduced the X-Men in a different fucking dimension in the Marvels. So how are we gonna get them in that fucking mainline MCU? Are we getting them in the mainline MCU?
We're gonna get some incursion type shit.
Yeah, some bullshit
in the world. The worlds
shit,
they're gonna combine, and we're gonna have. Speaking of, he was in that last episode. I thought that was so cool. Seeing different.
I did like all the little cameos from all the Marvel characters.
I was gonna mention
all the street level defender type. I was like,
You saw Cloak and Dagger, bro.
Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was like, oh.
Yeah,
shit, right? You exist.
I didn't watch that.
Cloak and Dagger is the definition of milk mafia, because her whiteness is literally what saves him from going to the dark side.
Whoa,
for real. That's how he.
Why'd you have to?
It does.
He's not wrong.
The
I
light
know, but like normal people don't say shit like that.
is true.
Nah, normal people don't, but visionaries like Luis do.
That's right.
Real.
Stop
Those
Ball.
encouraging
of you,
him.
those
And by
of you guys-
visionaries, I mean fervent racists.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
what
Jesus.
I like
Race traitors.
cameos because it really makes it. I like how it ties it into a larger universe.
Yeah.
Like, hey, remember it's the MCU. It's just like, oh look, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Cloak
Morph
and
turned into Hulk last episode. Yeah.
Mhm.
Dagger's. Oh, but that's not what we're talking about. We're focused on the X-Men right now. But they're there. But
Mhm.
don't worry about that right now. And so I really think
I think it does a really good job of answering that question the MCU always asks, where they're like, hey, if this is happening in this movie, where's like the other like 28 superheroes we saw previously?
Mhm.
What are they
Bro, I
doing?
ask that,
Right?
I ask
Damage
that shit all the
control is what they're
time, bro.
doing.
You know how much
Yeah.
shit happens in New York, bro? Every
All of
day
it.
some new
You
shit.
know how many
and where
motherfuckers
are all the
live in New York?
heroes?
You know how many people
They
need
all
help?
live
That's
there.
what they're doing.
Are
Shut
y'all
up.
too
Yeah.
busy? Are y'all not clocked in today? Are you on vacation? Get your ass out from Avengers Tower and come help with this shit, bro.
He's
God.
like, sorry, I'm not scheduled till
Spider-Man 2.
3:30. Shimagor's gonna have to eat in Harlem. It is
Sorry.
what it is.
it's only Doc Ock you're dealing with, not an
He
Avenger.
said,
I also-
you got it, bro.
I also liked how when they did a cameo for Doctor Strange, they're like, we can't show him doing magic because then he could solve this in 5 minutes. So what do we do?
He was
He's doing
surgery.
surgery.
Which
Which
in
is-
costume.
in costume. And I was like, who did they
He was
how
doing
did they call
magic
you for this?
surgery.
Who is that? Who are you operating on? What insurance plan is that? Is that
That's-
free?
I know his
Good one.
bill. I know his bill was the last number. It had like at least 7 zeros in that insurance bill.
He has to,
That
he has
medical
to go
claim was crazy.
he has to go to the sinners market and like sell a piece of his soul to pay his premium.
Absolutely, he's got to go the cloak and dagger route, and he's got to get pulled to the dark side. Oh,
Darkness.
The dark.
But anyways, I think
one more thing we want to do.
X-Men in the MCU is washed. I think
Is
it's
it there in the bar?
I just
The bar
want
is
to
way
say
too high.
I hope this remains its own separate thing and is not MCU introduced. I like this bottle that
I
they
hope
have.
they make like how they have the MCU is its own universe, like its own world, and the comics are its own world. The animation is its own world.
Yeah,
You know, it's
like
Earth. It's Earth 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 7. Something
like
like that. You know?
the bridge they have is Spider-Verse, and as long as they don't cross it, I'm fine. Let the spiders cross
Exactly.
over, but save the X-Men for me.
Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, I think all in all, this is a good ass show. This is just incredible. I oh man, dude. It's just like it's like so good. And it does things that I hate and other things, like it does one-liners. It does, well, that just happened, but I don't even notice it. It just washes over my fucking scalp. It does like dramatic little moments. It does like a hey, remember this guy from this other thing?
Yeah, because
Like Star Wars,
think
it's
it
all
balances-
fluid.
I think it walks this fine line of like being like a typical like melodramatic like Saturday morning cartoon, which is what it is, which is what the original show is, which is what we all remember and what we all love. But at the same time, it like elevates it a bit.
Right.
It makes
Right.
it put a little bit more thought, a little bit more consideration, a little bit more money behind it, thus elevating the source material. But at the end of the day, it's true to what it is, which is a Saturday morning cartoon, right? Which is which is what's so appealing about it, right? Like you said, the love triangle between Jean, Wolverine, and Scott, that's like juicy and it's like interesting, right? And
It's an
exciting.
action animated opera, soap opera. Is what
Yeah.
you're trying to say.
Sign
It's
me up for
Claremont to a
that.
T, and it's beautiful.
Right. And it's like the stakes are always high, are always at the highest. There's always a sense of urgency. And so it never lets up, and there's never a moment like a break in any of the action, whether that be emotional or physical. And so that, I think, it's so gripping and enthralling, and it just works, dude. It's good. They just got it. They fucking, the alchemy that it takes to create something, because we all know it takes a lot of work and a lot of really talented people, and it doesn't always work. But whoever the fuck sold their soul so that this shit worked out, thank you. Because, our children you had to sacrifice for this shit to go off like it did. Thank you. Keep it.
Keep up the good
Honestly,
work.
this is. I think
Mm.
what's incredible is this show should, by all metrics, have had everything going against it. The fact that it was an X-Men related thing, and we've had all this X-Men shit over the past decades that has just been awful, especially Dark Phoenix, which was that and New Mutants.
We don't talk about
the
that.
worst
We don't talk
Avengers.
about that. We
Yeah,
don't talk about that.
just not
It's
good.
cool. I don't
We've
care.
had several Marvel flops in the last couple of years since Endgame, and recently with animated superhero stuff, we've had pretty much just Invincible, but that's been having a steep drop in quality over the last couple of episodes and seasons. And
Right.
with how that release schedule is, we needed something like this to come along and not only reestablish a brand in a way that I did not think that they could, because outside of people who read the X-Men comics, I don't think anyone gave a real shit about seeing the X-Men on the screen. But they managed to do what I believe was not the impossible for so long, but just so incredibly hard to do, because the main thing about the X-Men is at their core, they may not just be superheroes, they are not mutants, they are at the end of the day still people. Even if they're not human, they're still people, and we never got that element, right? We always got the godlike powers, we always got them in tights swinging around doing all this shit, and we got like little bits and pieces, but they weren't like actual character development, right? The closest we got was maybe First Class, where it showed the more like personal element of the X-Men and their inner workings of the team. And now that we've gotten this with not only all of the personal elements, but also displaying that humanity to the X-Men, and actually not only having the X-Men tell us like, hey, we're mutants, but we're just like people. We actually see it because we can relate to them and their struggles, that even though they have these godlike abilities, we can still have any of them as our point of view character. That is an incredible feat that I don't think anything will ever accomplish for quite some time.
And again, look, it sounds simple and kind of like reductive, but it really is like humanizing your characters, right? Like when you're talking about genre and fantasy or action, science fiction, kind of like these kind of fantastical worlds, right? Characters who can do these fantastical things. It's like, well, it's really hard to relate to these characters because they're not real, they're not human. How do you expect me to relate to this other otherworldly godlike character? We humanize them, right? You give the audience a point of entry into these characters' minds and into these characters' worlds, and good writing does that. But these characters and these stories and this world that they inhabit lend beautifully, because I think we can all
Who got the Ozempic ad on?
because we can relate to discrimination and kind of biases and stuff like that in our day-to-day lives, and we see it, and so it's so powerful and moving. But
yeah,
I agree. Let's do a quick ranking of this just god amazing show. This so good show. I have nothing bad to say. I know everyone's probably on
this is so good.
This so good. Oh,
so good.
Mashallah, like this is fantastic. What's everyone's rating
10.
for X-Men 97? We'll start with 10 straight up. 10. Luis is a 10. Izzy?
I read Invincible 8 times, and this managed to blow that shit out of the fucking water. So I'm going to be honest, this is a 10. That Phoenix shit is not enough to ruin for me. This is a 10. The X stands for 10, baby. Straight Roman numerals.
2 for 2.
Fucking
Gerardo, you gonna make it 3? What you got?
Yeah, I can't be a bitch and say it's lower. I know it's a 10.
That is 4 10s across the board. I know if Graham and David were here, they would say the same thing, because this is one show we've all agreed on all the way across the board. Nothing bad to say about X-Men 97. So big props to everyone who was involved. We just gave you our first all-around perfect score for any project. This is the first one where everyone has
never happened in Cinestro core history.
And it probably won't happen again.
It'll never happen.
Definitely won't.
This is like that picture of the Bloods and Crips with the tied bandanas together.
I fucking love that picture.
Everybody linked up. We're all in agreement that this is the best thing that Marvel's put out.
Truly.
Moral of the story is support animation. I had a little bit that we were going to talk about, animation being great for other comic mediums. We'll discuss that in a later episode, but it's just I want to change that to animation is great for comic book stories, but if it's given to the right people, and we have the right people with X-Men 97, cannot wait for season 2, cannot wait for season 3, 4, 5 until they're like, okay, we're running out of stuff. Keep this train going. We're gonna ride this bitch until the wheels fall off. With that being said, y'all, this is another thrilling episode of Cinestro Corp put in the books. Huge thanks to everyone who tuned in today. Real quick, shout out to them boys. Shout out to them boys over at Backstage OL. Follow the people. Follow the people. That's where we get our information. We'll let David explain that when he gets back. Shout out to our very own AZ, aka Tari Single, on Twitch and on YouTube and Twitter. We're gonna have all those at names and everything in the description. Keep the excitement going by following us on all platforms at Cinestro Corp. We've got an epic lineup this year that you do not want to miss. Remember to smash that MF like button and the subscribe button so you can never miss a beat. Show us some love by leaving us a stellar 5-star review wherever you catch our podcast. Spread the word about our podcast to you and our YouTube channel. Don't forget that to share far and wide. Share it with your friends, your family, and your entire network. Your support means the absolute world to us. Until next time, stay awesome, and we'll catch you next time on the next electrifying episode of the Cinestro Corps. Peace out, Girl Scout.